Hey guys, if you're enjoying the content that I'm making, please click that subscribe button. Also remember to click that bell button and make sure to tick that box to send all notifications so you don't miss out on any videos. With that in mind, let's get on with the video. What's up guys, welcome to Munchkins Gaming, where we take your gaming to the next level. This is Munchkins logging in to bring you another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video. And welcome back to my Should You Pull series, where I give you reasons why you should be pulling for certain banners, and giving you reasons as well why you should not be pulling for certain banners. Anyway guys, this video will be covering the Ultimate Campaign banner, which consists of Setzer, Sarah, and Vanille CX in one banner. We're going to be going through all their EX and their EX plus Vanille's Rework as well. So without further ado, let's start this video. We'll start off with a very familiar EX, and this one is on Setzer's EX. It's the Death Strike Darts. Now this will give the EX ability called Prismatic Flash. Now Prismatic Flash is a 7-hit AoE magic brave attack which moderately raises the brave damage dealt to a single target. This will raise all the party members' brave except for the character with the highest current brave, and will deal an AoE HP attack. Now the HP damage is divided equally amongst all enemies, and this will extend the duration of existing self buffs by 1 turn as well. This will also grant the Blackjack buff for Setzer. This will last for 6 turns. The Blackjack buff gives a slightly increase in the party's attack and max brave, and will also slightly raise his own attack and his own max brave. This has a slightly fast recast speed, and at 1 out of 3 limit break, this will slightly raise the brave damage dealt with Prismatic Flash. At 2 out of 3, it will slightly raise the recast speed of Prismatic Flash. And at 3 out of 3, this will slightly raise his attack and speed, and will turn HP attack into HP attack plus. HP attack plus has the following effects. It will raise his brave based on his attack before inflicting an HP attack. This will also raise the brave based on the 30% of his HP damage dealt. Now let's take a look at the realized weapon, or his EX plus. This will obviously improve the EX ability Prismatic Flash. At 0 out of 3 limit break when using Prismatic Flash, it will greatly raise the brave potency, and the stolen brave can now overflow up to 150% of his max brave. At 1 out of 3, this will add the following effects to the Blackjack buff. It will now start granting it a brave regen, and will raise his critical brave damage as well as when the quest starts, he will have Blackjack, a small max brave up, and a small attack up for 6 turns, and will turn his brave attack into brave attack plus for 6 turns as well when the quest starts. Now at 2 out of 3 limit break, this will slightly increase the Setzer's max brave, and will moderately increase his attack, and it will also turn his brave attack and brave attack plus into brave attack plus plus. Now this increases its number of brave hits to 4, and will moderately raise the total brave potency compared to his brave attack plus. This will now trigger an HP attack after use when his brave is over 80% of his max brave. This will also turn his HP attack and HP attack plus into the plus plus version, and will become a range brave plus HP attack. Now at 3 out of 3 limit break when using Prismatic Flash, this will now greatly raise the brave potency of Prismatic Flash, and will slightly raise the recast speed of Prismatic Flash again, and it will slightly raise the max brave overflow limit. Now the bonus sphere that you are going to be getting if you do max this out, is called full HP critical speed down. When the HP is maxed and a critical hit occurs, it will inflict a 20% speed down for 6 turns. Same spheres do not stack. Now, what do I think of Setzer's EX Plus? Honestly, I feel like his EX Plus just gives him a lot of other options instead of using his abilities, especially with the introduction of a plus version of his Brave Attack. Now, his Brave Attack even before and currently with his Brave Attack Plus, they will actually trigger an HP attack if the Brave that he gets is over 80%. Now, having an extra 2 or 3 now to 4 hits with his Brave Attack Plus, this will actually make it so it's easier for you to reach that 80% threshold and actually trigger an HP attack even with his Brave Attack Plus, which is kind of amazing in a way. It's not only his HP Attack Plus that will trigger an HP attack, now even his Brave Attack Plus will have a higher chance to actually perform an HP attack after you use it. And of course, the increased recast speed is nothing to sniff at. Again, this already has a very quick recharge speed. Now increasing it even further is actually really nice if you do end up maxing this out. Now, moving on to the next EX that is featured in this banner is going to be Sarah's EX, called the Fairy's Bow. This will give the EX ability called Ultima Arrow. Now, Ultima Arrow is a 7-hit Magic Brave plus HP attack, which will deal also 30% of splash damage to the non-targets. This will also inflict the Goddess of Light framed debuff to all enemies for 5 turns. Now, when she's breaking a target or attacking a broken target, this will increase the HP damage dealt to non-targets, and Goddess of Light debuff will basically give a lower defense and will also deal brave damage every turn on enemies that are inflicted with the Goddess of Light debuff. This has a slightly slow recast speed, and at 1 out of 3 limit break, this will slightly raise the brave damage dealt by Ultima Arrow. At 2 out of 3, it will slightly increase the HP damage dealt to non-targets with Ultima Arrow, and at 3 out of 3, this will slightly raise the recast speed of Ultima Arrow. Now let's take a look at the realized version, or the EX Plus version. Of course, this will improve the EX ability Ultima Arrow. At 0 out of 3 limit break when using Ultima Arrow, this will greatly raise the total brave potency of Ultima Arrow, and the stolen brave can now overflow up to 120% of her max brave. At 1 out of 3 limit break, this will moderately raise her max brave and her attack, and will turn her HP attack into HP attack plus. HP attack plus raised her brave based on her attack before dealing an HP damage, and will again raise the ally's brave based on the HP damage she has dealt. At 2 out of 3 limit break when using Ultima Arrow, it will now grant the Unshaken Will frame buff for Sarah. This will last for 5 turns, and when the quest starts, she will also be granted the Unshaken Will for 5 turns as well. At 3 out of 3 limit break when she's using her Ultima Arrow, this will raise her brave based on the attack before the brave hits. This will greatly raise the total brave potency of Ultima Arrow as well, and slightly improve the max brave overflow limit for Ultima Arrow, and will turn her brave attack and her brave attack plus into brave attack plus. This increases the number of brave hits to 2, and it will moderately raise the total brave potency compared to brave attack plus, and will slightly raise the brave gain based on her attack. This will also turn her HP attack plus and HP attack plus her HP attack and her HP attack plus into the plus plus version, while slightly raising the brave gain based on her attack, and the gain brave by the party can now overflow up to 120% of their max brave. And of course, the bonus sphere that you are going to be getting here is called Debuff Success Boost Long. After inflicting a debuff, it will raise max brave by 10% for 6 turns. So what do I think of Sarah's EX Plus? Well, I think this, just like Cesar, adds a lot more longevity for Sarah. She already has a quite high longevity with if you have all of her cursed artifacts, because it does add you like 3 uses for her Moonlight attack. So adding a HP attack plus, which she sorely really needed, is actually really nice. Not only that, it actually gives the entire party brave back, so it's actually like a brave battery. And when you actually get at 2 out of 3 limit break, you don't have to have that ramp up time of 1 turn for you to actually take advantage of Sarah's plus versions of her abilities. So this is really nice EX. It sort of falls in the same line as Setzer, and of course among all other EX Plus, it kind of just reduces the ramp up time for Sarah and adds a lot of variety and of course longevity for Sarah as well. And now finally, the last EX that we're going to be covering is Vanille's EX called Tiger Claw. This will give the EX ability called Death 13. This is a 3-hit magic brave plus HP attack. The stolen brave can overflow up to 150% and will inflict the assassination debuff for 1 turn. Now assassination has the following effects. This will deal a magic brave attack after it expires, or basically after the enemy's turn. It will also deals a greater brave damage to debuff targets. Think of it just like Ferris's EX ability, but this time it's a debuff rather than a unique buff or a unique icon on top of the character. So this is a slightly fast recast speed. Sorry, at a 1 out of 3, it will slightly raise the brave damage dealt by Death 13. At 2 out of 3, it will grant the Eorba's Blessing, I hope I pronounced that right, for 5 turns after using Death 13. Eorba's Blessing has the following effects. It will raise her attack and speed and raise the brave damage dealt based on the number of debuffs on the target, and at 3 out of 3 it will slightly raise the recast speed of Death 13. Now let's take a look at the realized version of her weapon or her EX Plus. Of course, this again will improve the EX ability Death 13. Now when she's using Death 13 at 0 out of 3 limit break, this now becomes an AoE attack. The HP damage dealt is split equally amongst all enemies and will increase the number of brave hits to 6 and will have a low action delay. At 1 out of 3 limit break, it will moderately raise her max brave and her attack, and will turn her brave attack and brave attack plus to the plus plus version, which now increases the number of brave hits to 2, slightly raises the total brave potency compared to the plus version, and deals greater brave damage on to debuff targets. This will also turn her HP attack and the plus version into the plus plus version, raising the party's brave based on the attack before inflicting a HP attack, and gain brave by the party can overflow up to 120% of their max brave. At 2 out of 3 limit break, when the quest starts, she will have Eorba's Blessing for 5 turns. At 3 out of 3 limit break, when using Death 13, this will tremendously raise the total brave potency of Death 13 and moderately raise the max brave overflow limit of Death 13 as well. Now, the assassination debuff, when it expires, will now also remove 2 buffs from the target as well. Now, the bonus sphere that you're going to be getting here is called Break Buff Erase. When breaking a target, it will remove 1 buff from that target. Now I just want to quickly cover Vanille's rework and the changes that they've done on Vanille's abilities. The first one is the Protect 13 will now have a +4 use, which is huge. This will also grant Brave before the attack now and becomes a group attack as well. The Brave hit count increases to 3 and a max Brave overflow limit will go up to 120%. This will also have increased turn rate and will now trigger an HP attack after use, so you don't have to wait. I do believe before it has to be at least 80% before it will trigger the HP attack. Now it will automatically trigger the HP attack regardless of your Brave. Next is the change to her Crystal Passive 58. It will now moderately increase the party's max Brave and attack while the enemy is debuffed. Whereas before I think it was quite minimal increase. Now it is moderate. Next and finally, her last ability, or her second ability, Dispel 13, will now have 2 extra uses and increasing the Brave based on her max Brave before the attack, and the Brave hit count will now increase to 4, and the max Brave overflow limit is increased to 150%, and the boss that she can remove is now 3, and this will also now trigger an HP attack after use regardless of her Brave. So after looking at Vanille's rework and of course her EX Plus, what do I think of Vanille overall? Well, her EX Plus kind of falls the same as where Setzer and Sarah falls into. It just adds longevity, gives them all Brave Attack plus plus and HP Attack plus plus versions, and of course giving them the unique buff that they usually have when they use their EX at the start of their quest. So there's really not much difference from what we've been having lately. Usually I feel like the EX Plus just adds more less ramp up time for certain characters, and of course gives them just a tiny bit of extra increase on the EX ability. And of course the main thing is, well, like I said earlier, is the longevity factor, and basically all 3 of the EX Plus that are featured in this banner just ticks that box really well. The biggest thing that I can actually say is actually Vanille's rework, because this increases her ability count by a ton. You might think like 4 extra uses and 2 extra uses is not much. They are quite a lot in terms of chaos. If you think about it, you do want to save as much of your abilities as possible. Now having extra 4 on the Protect is actually really good. So I do feel like, I mean, all of these characters are chaos viable, but adding that factor in is actually really nice on Vanille. So the question remains, how much should you invest on these EX weapons? Now for Setzer, let's just start at Setzer. I know I listed all the things there, but I do want to start with Setzer on this one. I do believe a minimum at 1 out of 3 limit break is actually the way to go. This actually gives him his Blackjack buff at the start of the quest, not to mention a small max Brave up and a small attack up as well for 6 turns. This also gives you the access to his Brave Attack Plus, which is really nice, and of course Blackjack actually gives you a Brave regen now and will also raise his critical Brave damage as well. Now obviously if you are a big fan of Setzer and you really want to max him out to his full potential, I do believe you have to go at 3 out of 3. The main reason to go with the 3 out of 3 for Setzer is basically adding that slightly raising his recast speed of Prismatic Flash. The main problem of Setzer, even though you will be getting access to his plus versions of his Brave Attack and his HP attack at 2 out of 3, is basically he still doesn't have a lot of ability usage. So basically having an increase on the recast speed on Prismatic Flash means you will be able to use his EX much quicker and therefore saving you some ability counts. Now as for Sarah, I do feel like you have to go a minimum at 2 out of 3 limit break, because this is when you actually get Unshaken Will for 5 turns at the start of the quest, and now Ultima Arrow will actually give Unshaken Will buff as well. So you don't have to rely on her wound in order for you to actually get this buff. So this is a really nice extra for Sarah, and of course going to the max you have to go at 3 out of 3. I mean, you already invested at 2 out of 3, you might as well go all the way, and that's what I always say. And not only that, you do get access to the plus versions of her Brave and HP attacks on 3 out of 3 limit break. Not to mention, you now have access to a Brave gain before the actual hits of Ultima Arrow. That means you're not relying too much on Sarah's low attack in order to do a lot of damage with her EX ability. And finally, as for Vanille's EX Plus, I do feel like the minimum amount of investment you can go here is at 1 out of 3 limit break. This is where you get access to her plus versions of her Brave attack and her HP attack. So this is adding longevity to Vanille. And to max it out, I didn't actually go 3 out of 3 on this one. I feel like at 2 out of 3 you should be fine, because this is where you actually get access to Iorba's Blessing for 5 turns. Now the reason why I didn't go 3 out of 3 here is the added things that you get from 3 out of 3 is just more increased overflow limit and of course potency, and the assassination debuff that removes 2 buffs. I don't know, this is very situational, and I know it helps if you can remove those buffs as soon as the boss's turn is finished and they actually buff themselves, but honestly I feel like this is very situational if the boss actually buffs themselves with certain different kinds of buffs. But at the same time, I feel like you can just use Vanille's second ability to actually remove that, because one way or another you're going to use an ability, you might as well just dispel it yourself. So while an argument can be made that you can go 3 out of 3 for Vanille, at least in my opinion 2 out of 3 is definitely enough. But if you do have the extra resources, and of course if you like Vanille as a character, you can actually go 3 out of 3. This will actually increase her effectiveness when removing debuffs, but I feel like because she can already remove debuffs with her second ability, and you can push off some of the buffs as well with her first ability, I don't know if you actually need this too much. So it's a really toss up for me, but personally 2 out of 3 is enough for me. Okay guys, so we're nearly at the end of this video. Let's give you some reasons why you should be pulling for this banner. The first reason why you should be pulling for this banner is if you actually need a debuffer or dispeller. Now the main thing here is if you actually did not get Ferris's EX and did not get Lilith's EX as well, then this banner is for you, because Sarah and Vanille are in this banner. They are very good debuffers plus dispeller, and Setzer, while not totally a dispeller, his freeze buff is definitely worth having. Unfortunately for Setzer, the main problem with him is he doesn't have the longevity like the others, but he is a very good friend support. Now the next reason is actually you need more characters for the Dimension's End, and basically the last one is if you are a big fan of these characters, then obviously you should try and pull for these characters. Now as for why you should not be pulling for this banner is basically just the opposite. The first one is if you already got Ferris and Lilithette as your debuffers and you're actually quite happy with these two, you actually don't need to actually pull for this banner because Ferris is your dispeller debuffer all in one, and Lilithette is a pretty good debuffer herself, and plus she has a very good buff as well for the entire party. Now the next reason is probably somewhere along the lines where I am, is you already got 2 out of 3 the EXs that are featured in this banner. Now the chances of you getting a duplicate is pretty high, seeing as there are 3 different EXs in this particular banner, but hey, if you do want to take your chance, go for it I guess, but I'm just warning you guys, you know, 2 out of 3 of the EX that are featured here, if you already have them, there's really not much of an incentive for you to actually pull, especially if you have like say Setzer or Sarah combination, or Sarah or Vanille combination. Sarah is probably, at least in my opinion for this banner, is the prize to get in this one. So if you have Sarah in combination with the others, then you probably don't need to pull for this banner. Now the next reason is, of course, you want to save your resources for the Emperor, and that's the main thing. You know, if you want to go for the meta character that is coming very soon at the end of the month, towards the end of the month I should say, then you probably want to try and save as much of your resources as you can. And finally, of course, if you're not a big fan of these characters, you can definitely just pass on this banner altogether. Anyway guys, I think that's it for this video. Please remember to click like and subscribe if you haven't already. This is going to help my little channel to grow even further, and of course help with the YouTube algorithm if you leave that click that like button. And of course, I do want to hear from you guys, your comments and your opinions on this banner. Leave down in the comments below, which do you think is the prize out of these 3? Let me know down in the comments below. You guys know, for me it is going to be Sarah, but I would like to hear from you guys as well. And of course, make sure to follow me on my social media. I am on Facebook and on Twitter, and if you have any questions or you want to talk about Dissidia Opera Omnia, I'll be more than glad to have a chat with you as well. Anyway guys, this is Munchkins logging off, and I'll see you guys in the next level.